And so I had been researching. Welcome back to my series. This is video number 3 of I don't know how many there's going to be today. But I started yapping about white Christian South African prophets and speaking about the ones that were, and there was one very famous one, which I'll have to find it and maybe talk about it. I think I may just put the video. There was one person who did a pretty cool like presentation on it that I will, which then pushed me to go research it, that you might want to see. So I'll put it in the folder on YouTube. So just Queen underscore heretic, or even Queen heretic as one word. You can search it, and then you can go into my Farseeing folder. And at some point in the next week or two, I'll if I can locate it and put it in there, I'll do that, because that's a whole other can of worms. And that's part of what I want to talk about today, which is how do evil people, how do misguided people like make these right predictions? How is it that how is it that the people who proclaim that they speak on behalf of the one and true living God, and I talked about that last week, get their predictions so wrong, yet the people who they consider evil get their predictions predict correctly? And how is it that a far-seeing person could use their ability to see the future or access it, right, to perceive it? How is it that there is no higher governance to manage uses of that for evil? So that's a longer topic. I don't even think I'm going to get into this last topic that I mentioned, that last bullet point. I don't even think I'm going to get into that today. I think just to talk about distortion with the rate at which I'm yapping, and the fact that this is video number 3, I think we may just get there. So I'll pause my discussion of the South African prophet who the racist white South African prophet who used their ability to perceive or to ability to predict things that helped white South Africaners double down in their white supremacy and their injury to Africans. I'll pause that, but I frame it in this way because it is associated with my discussion of Kim Clement, who is a white South Africaner, who was also a prophet, whose predictions were used and have been used to harm Black people. And you see this again. And so it's put me on the journey. It's just whenever I began to, I'm a person who loves patterns. So whenever I began to see a pattern, I pay attention to it. And there is a pattern there. And my ability to perceive and reach out and predict the future is forcing me to acknowledge that there is something to learn there. If you are a far-seeing person, you're going to understand what I'm talking about. And then if you're not, it's up to you whether or not you believe what I'm saying. But some people call it a knowing. It is within your extended knowledge. Out of that is what I'm telling you, is that there is something to be said there. And I've been put on the journey to unearth it, because you have people using their ability, you have white South Africaners using their ability to predict in ways in which Kim Clement, like, I'm not saying that he meant to harm Black people, but that his and people of color, BIPOC, Black people, and people of color, indigenous people too, like, his prophecies have been leveraged by Christian nationalists in ways that taint what Kim Clement was trying to do. You have to go back to look at my discussions on Kim Clement. That's going to be an ongoing discussion too, because that situation needs to be deconstructed, because they're destroying what good he was trying to do. It is being destroyed. And it is something you need to pay attention to. The reason why I'm bringing it up is you need to pay attention to it, because it is showing you how the sausage is made. from the standpoint of how a far-seeing person, like a predictor's words, the things that they said, can be taken out of context, can be leveraged and utilized to justify the goals of whoever. Whoever. Same way people use the Bible. It's the same way people use religion. The Abrahamic religions get, like, their holy books get taken out of context, reread and interpreted in a way that justifies the ideology of someone. And Christian nationalists are a good example of that, is that in order to gain power and control over others, they're using Christianity in a way to make Christianity appear, well, I'll let you go research Christian nationalists because I'm yapping on too long, and I want to bring myself back to my core topic, which is distortion. So I think we need to unravel a bit prediction, okay? And as I've said before, people predict in many different ways. And if there's something that I'm saying that you want me to kind of elaborate on, please put it in the comments, make a video. You can even challenge my presentation of the information, because as you can see, I have no slides, no nothing, no video. I'm just talking about a topic that I have been made aware of through my access, through my capacities, that we have got to start talking about, because people's addiction to prophecy, prediction, is leading, and I'll just stick to my country, America, off a cliff. And it is one of the core, missteps, like misinterpretation, misunderstanding of what was conveyed, that it justified many people's decision to vote for an individual who is incredibly toxic and the antithesis of what their religion, Christianity, requires, that religion requires that they be. And so the prophecies that were given were leveraged in a way that justify, because the hilarious part about a prediction is an interpretation of the information that was made available, that was perceivable by a person who can predict. And that prediction then becomes an interpretation of the data that was made available. And when you have a prediction that goes out, you have a secondary interpretation, because how people perceive what you said, and how people really, let me not use the word perceive, it is perceiving what people said, but it's also an interpretation that helps you to understand what was said. And I'll restate all of this again, because the distortion happens, and I'm just kind of jumping into it and I'll go back to it. The distortion happens as you go through this process of communicating. It's like we see this in the way that folk tales are relayed. A story will be told, right? A story will be told to one person. That story will be retold to another person, and the story will be retold to the next person. And the way each person in that chain perceives, the way they hear, the way they perceive what was heard, the way they understand it, and the way they reiterate what was said, you get some distortion, some change of the original story. Now, with folktales, sometimes it makes the folktale better. Sometimes it makes the tale, the story better. I say folktale because I've been reading African American folktales to my child at nighttime. One of the things we do is to do that, because I read folk tales from around the world. So you're not just getting an American centric view, and your perception of self is not, and this is what I'm hoping,